Welcome to the Bill Kelly Podcast, critical discussions in critical times. Here's your host, Bill Kelly.
And welcome to another edition of the Bill Kelly Podcast, critical discussions in these critical times. I'm your host, Bill Kelly, and happy Canada Day, or belated Happy Canada Day, since I know many of you won't be watching this until after the July 1st celebrations. But celebrations nonetheless. More about that in just a second. I was just reminiscing about this as we were approaching this big holiday for Canada, Canada's birthday, and remembering that when I was just a kid, this used to be called Dominion Day, Dominion of Canada. And I didn't realize it was not until 1982 that Dominion Day became Canada Day. We always celebrated just Canada's birthday, but it was not until our Constitution was repatriated by Pierre Elliott Trudeau in 1982 that the change was made and we became Canada Day. So here we are. And those of us that have been around a little while and celebrated a bunch of these have seen a number of different things that have influenced Canada Day celebrations. Those of us that may have been around in 1967 for the 100th anniversary of Canada's birth can remember those celebrations and what a festive atmosphere that was with the young guy from the East Coast, Bobby Jimby, the Pied Piper of Canada, who came up with a song about Canada, which I will not attempt to sing for you. You can thank me later. But it did instill that kind of national pride. And there have been other instances along the way of historical significance, many of them tied to athletic prowess, hockey victories and things of this nature that have really kind of pumped us up. But it's, I think, pretty safe to say this year's different for a whole lot of reasons. This is a very difficult time globally, not just for Canada, but for so many other nations right now. And I think there's been an awakening this year that I sense is being reflected in what's coming up with the Canada Day celebrations. And I think we as Canadians are starting to realize a couple of things that maybe we had just taken for granted. First and foremost, maybe what we took for granted was Canada itself. Those of us that have been here through all of our lives, or relatively that, or new Canadians, we've always welcomed new Canadians, people that want to come here and become part of the Canadian fabric, the Canadian mosaic. That's what makes us great, is that diversity and people from different parts of the world bringing their life experiences and their talents to this country. That's one of the reasons it makes us great. And we always just kind of thought, well, yeah, we're just going to roll along here. This is going to be fine. We'll do we'll have tips and peaks and valleys as every country does, but everything's just going to be hickety-doo. Well, that changed, of course. And there's a number of different theories as to why. The first one, of course, comes because of the pressure from south of the border, from Donald Trump and some of the things that he has done vis-a-vis trade policies, tariffs, certainly. And we can't have a discussion about Canada-U.S. relations without the threat of tariffs. And certainly, he's taken it to the next level, Trump has, that is, by suggesting that Canada should become the 51st state of the United States. And you can remember even when Prime Minister Carney was down at the White House talking to Trump, suggesting, well, you never know. And Carney just kind of looked at the camera and said, never happening. And that's great. And that's another thing I think that kind of infused some of this national pride. But what we have to come to grips with here, and I think is a very important aspect of the discussion here, is that we can't take Canada for granted. And I'm not suggesting, and nor I don't think anyone else is, that we may wake up one morning and see U.S. troops, coming across the 49th parallel to take over Canada. That's not how this is going to happen. There's a very, very concerted effort now from Washington, especially from the Trump administration, to try to dominate us economically. And the tariffs, of course, are a way to do that. And as we've talked about in previous podcasts, let's face it, the United States for the longest time, not just under Trump, but long before Donald Trump even went down that escalator to run for president the first time, the United States has been envious of a lot of Canada's natural resources. And why not? We're one of the richest countries in the world, maybe not, in dollars and cents, but with natural resources. And numerous natural resources, fresh water, an unlimited supply, it seems, although we know in our heart of hearts that every supply is finite here on this earth. But we had a lot of stuff that other countries wanted, and we were proud of that. And we tried to share, and there were deals that were made. And then along comes Donald Trump, and all of a sudden he doesn't want to share. He just wants to dominate. And it's I think, given us a wake-up call. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. maybe it's about time that we realize that we just can't take Canada for granted. We can't take what we have or who we are for granted. There are those, both inside and outside this country, who would like to ruin that, to take the whole thing apart. And I don't think we ever realized that before. We just didn't think that that sort of thing would happen, not in this day and age, not to Canada, certainly, because everybody loves Canadians, right? Uh, and now we're starting to understand that, well, maybe not everybody. And you can look to the White House, I think, to see exactly where that's coming from. But it also, I think, gave us an opportunity to wake up about what our responsibilities are. Because with riches and with, clean living and the sorts of things that we so pride ourselves in here, come responsibilities. And I think there's probably an argument to be made here that maybe we took that for granted too. That maybe we don't need to pay so much attention to our commitment to NATO or to the G7 or to other countries in economics. We can slide just a little bit because we've got this neighbor to the south that's got our back, and it's in their best interest for that to happen. What has happened, I think, in the last 5 or 6 months, especially since Trump has taken office for that second term, is Canada, I think, has grown up and matured a lot. And maybe that's, well, I know it's for the best, but maybe it's something that had to happen. But we've certainly put that on the fast track because of some of the things that have happened. Our dear friend and great Canadian Mike Myers talked about that recently, an interview he did on CBC with Paul Hunter from CBC. And of course, Myers was thrust into the spotlight right in the middle of this whole thing, but with his appearance on Saturday Night Live. Mike, of course, used to be a regular on Saturday Night Live, but he's back there as a guest appearance to do an Elon Musk impression, with the chainsaw and everything else. You all remember, I'm sure, even if you didn't see the show that night, you saw the video of course, with Myers with the Canada is not for sale T-shirt and the elbows up at the end of the show, which just all of a sudden just went viral. And I think created a movement, or maybe what it did is accelerated a movement that was already starting to brew beneath the surface. And Myers, of course, a couple of weeks later was back on there at the end of the show, and he hit with the Canadian Tire shirt. And as he explained during the interview on CBC, that was basically a message: hey, buy Canadians to support your own economy. He's a patriotic Canadian. Yeah, he lives in the States, but a lot of successful Canadians do, and I don't hold that against him, and I don't think anybody else should either. There's a plethora of athletes, artists of all kinds, who have gone to different parts of the world to ply their crafts and their trade and become very successful. And it's not just Mike Myers. It's not just the hockey players that have gone down there to the States or to other places, or the football players or the basketball players for that matter either. Nobody suggesting that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander from Hamilton should have stayed in Hamilton and found a little men's basketball league to play in. You go if you're an elite athlete or an elite musician, you go to where those people prosper and where they are. And in many cases, those are American cities. I'm okay with that. But Myers is one of these people that did that very thing and had immense success, of course, not just on Saturday Night Live, but with the Wayne's World stuff, and then, of course, Austin Powers and so many other great things that he has done. And not so good, but he has never forgotten his Canadian roots. Michael J. Fox, the same way, of course, who's had a great success in show business. And there are many, many other examples of that. But they have this Canadian pride. And whenever they can, they try to show us just how, I guess, proud they are to have been in Canada. The two Ryans come to mind as well. Both of them very successful actors in their own right. You can't stay in Toronto and Vancouver all the time. You go down there to where the movies are being made, the TV shows are being made, etc. So that's okay. But I'm happy about the fact that these people will jump up, not just on Canada Day, but at other opportunities to talk about their pride. You maybe remember a couple of months ago, on one of our podcasts, I read the open letter that Neil Young wrote to Mark Carney. Neil, of course, has lived in the States, has been a dual citizen for a number of years, but still a very proud Canadian. He has dual citizenship, and again, that's where his career has taken him. But he's proud of his Winnipeg roots and certainly his Ontario roots, and talks about that openly, and always has as a proud Canadian. And they take an interest in what's going on. And Neil Young's letter, of course, to Carney was basically saying, look, our country is under threat from within and from without, and we need real leadership here. And Neil was bang on. That was one of the most popular podcasts we'd done up to that point. Many people jumped on board to echo Neil's sentiments, but also I think to applaud Neil Young for having the backbone to basically write this and say, look, it's about time somebody spoke up, because we don't do that too often as Canadians. We're kind of meek and kind of quiet. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. And I think there's maybe a new attitude now where we're starting to be more vocal, and we should be more vocal. And we should be, waving our own flag and beating our chest just a little bit. We got a lot to be praised about, but we also have a lot to be thankful for. And I think we have to vocalize the gratitude for that and listen to those that are giving us that kind of a gratitude and a slap on the back, especially in light of the fact that we seem to be under attack from the Trump administration because of what's gone on in the last little while. So, and we're seeing this reflected, I think, with some of the things that have happened during the Canada Day celebrations right across this country. There are those from within, not just outside the borders, that would seek to try to dissolve this fantastic conglomeration of peoples and different political views and everything else in this country. The diversity that makes us so great is what some people would love to use to divide us, and we can't let that happen. It's about time that we stand up for this country in a way that we maybe never have had to do before. And it's an awakening, I guess, to understand that this is what has to happen these days. And we gladly do that. And as Myers said during the interview on CBC the other day, it wasn't his actions on Saturday Night Live and subsequent to that. It's not anti-American. He said, we love Americans. And I've made that point, I think, on the podcast a number of times. I have nothing against Americans. We love to go down to New York to Broadway. We love to go to Chicago, to Boston, so many other great places south of the border. They're great cities. They're great people down there. But at the same token, that doesn't mean we want to be American. We want to be Canadians who simply go there and visit and have a good time and come back to the land or to the city that we love. And there are some people down south of the border that just don't seem to get that. And that's too bad. Maybe they don't understand just how much we appreciate what we've got up on this side of the border. And the message here is that maybe we have taken that for granted. We are in a different circumstance these days. And we find ourselves in some circumstances now having to defend who we are and what we are. And we need to do that. We need to stand up. We need to put leadership in place in this country that will stand up for Canada and will stand up for what we are and stand up for Canada, not just now, but for Canada in the future too. This is a different Canada Day celebration because I think we've been stirred out of our lethargy, and it's about time that we use that energy right now and focus on what's going to be happening going forward. So once again, happy Canada Day, not just today, but going forward. It's the old idea that every day should be Canada Day for us right now. We are the true north, strong and free. And we need to keep it that way. And you have to understand as well that sometimes, like just now, we're going to have to understand that we need to stand up for Canada too. It's done so much for us. It's about time that we stood up and give something back. And I think that's the message that this Canada Day has brought to people from coast to coast to coast. That's it for this edition of the podcast. Thanks so much for being with us. If you're new to the podcast, great to have you with us here today. You can catch us on any of the platforms that you pick up your podcasts on: YouTube, Substack, Spotify, Blue Sky, Apple. I mean, we're all over the place, and we're so appreciative of that, and are so appreciative of the feedback that we get from you. Keep that coming as well. And when you do check out the podcasts and some of the past podcasts as well, we always include some background information, some related stories to try to enhance the discussion and the debate that's going on about some of these key issues. So make sure you check that out too. Thanks as always to Madeline Kelly for the great work putting this one together. I'm Bill Kelly. Until next time, stay in touch and stay informed.
Bill Kelly Podcast brought to you by Wizen's Law, personal injury lawyers. Listen, you didn't choose to get injured, but you can choose the right lawyer. Wizen's Law, 905-522-1102 or wizenslaw.com.